Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared and we're about to play Maracaibo. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. As I go over everything, feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. Maracaibo is a seafaring game set in the Caribbean in the 17th century. Players will pursue seafaring careers and support the different European nations who aim to control the region. Increase your standing with the nations, sail across the islands, and send your adventurer on an expedition across South America. The timeline lasts 40 years, 10 years around. The game can be played as a campaign where the board will transform and follow a story path, or it can be played as a standalone game. Alexander Pfister's latest game brings a ton of choices and paths to victory, and combines some of his best game mechanics from his previous games. Let's take a look. Place the board face up in the center of the table. Shuffle the combat tiles into 2 face-down stacks, placed here on the board. Separate the 4 story tiles from the quest tiles. If you're playing a campaign game, place them face up in numerical order here on the board. Shuffle the quest tiles and place them in a stack face up underneath them. Take the top 3 quests from the stack and place them in the 3 spaces on the Explorer track at the bottom of the board. Look through the city tiles and grab the ones marked with the player count for your game. The Maracaibo city tile will only be used in a 2-player game. It would be placed on the number 11 Maracaibo space. Find the 2 city tiles that show the pirate wheel icon and randomly choose 2 more from the tiles you set aside for your player count. Place these 4 city tiles randomly across the 4 city spaces found at space numbers 4, 5, 13, and 14. They should be face up. Return the rest of the city tiles to the box. Find the project cards that have a gray crown back on them. Shuffle and place 4 face down above the board at these locations. Flip only the first one face up. Look at the project cards. The special story-related project cards will have red numbers in the bottom corner. They're known as C cards. Separate these out first, then sort the cards by their rope color. The dark colored rope border are the standard cards used in every game. The rulebook refers to these as A cards. The light colored rope border are the B cards. From the standard A card stack, shuffle and deal 8 cards to each player. From the B card stack, shuffle and create a stack of 40 cards. The rest can be returned to the game box. Combine the 40 with the remaining A cards. Shuffle them together now and place it near the board to create a draw pile. Reveal 4 cards next to the deck face up. Place all the colored cubes at the top of the board over the colored spaces to the left of the influence track. 1 colored cube sits on the far left space, while each space following holds 2 cubes each. These are known as ownership markers and represent one of the 3 countries occupying an area during the game. Blue is France, red is Spain, and white is England. If you're playing the campaign, you can create a pile of the legacy tiles face down nearby. They have an L and a number shown on the back of each of them. Create a pile of doubloon tokens. This is the money used during the game. The first player will be the person who most recently was on board a ship, or you can randomize it. The first player receives 8 doubloons from the supply, the second player 9, the third player 10, and fourth player 11. Give each player a shipboard to lay in front of them. Each player should collect 24 brown upgrade discs from the supply. On your shipboard, cover each of these circular spaces with a stack of 2 discs each. There are 12 places to put them on each ship. Each player should choose a color to be and collect all their wooden pieces. Place your cube marker at 0 on your ship's combat track. Place 2 small meeples near your board. These are what's available to you at the start of the game. The rest should go to a supply. Place your victory point marker at 0 on the victory point track. All the ships will start at the Havana space. The largest meeple is your explorer. Place these at the start space on the explorer track near the bottom of the board. Everyone should place an influence marker at 0 for each of the 3 nations. Place another marker at the 8 doubloon space of the income track and the final marker at the 0 space of the victory point income track. Give everyone one of the double-sided overview cards. Shuffle and deal 2 career cards to each player. Each should choose one of the 2 dealt to them to keep. The other will be discarded out of the game. Take 3 of your color meeples from the supply and place it on the career card, with one covering each row. Since you don't know how to play yet, you can wait to select one of these career cards until you're ready to start. Now you should choose if you're going to play a standalone game, start a campaign, continue a campaign, or choose a specific campaign chapter to play. I'm going to explain how to start a standalone game first, and then go into starting a campaign. For your first game, you should find and place story card 75 on the board here. On future standalone games, you could pick a story card 75, 76, or 77. These add a little setup variance to your standalone plays. Follow the setup as written on the card. Draw quests from the top of the stack and place them at the various location numbers shown based on player count. Stop after the round 1 setup instructions. As you end each round, you'll add new quests out to the board based on what's written on the card. The rest of the story cards, legacy tiles, and story tiles can be returned to the box. Regardless of choosing a standalone game or a campaign game, everyone should now choose cards from the 8 dealt to them. Keep 4 cards in your hand, place 1 in one of the 3 planning spaces above your shipboard, and discard the last 3 to a general discard pile. If you decide to start a new campaign game, look for story card 1 and place it there instead. Story tile 1 should be placed at the indicated location, which should be 15 for story card 1. Place quest tiles out at the indicated locations and based on player count. Continue on with players choosing their starting cards. To continue a previously played campaign, take all the story cards out of the blue bag archive and add them to the story space on the board. Read the cards and do all the setup instructions, such as adding quests and legacy tiles to their positions on the board. You may also choose a chapter to play. Story cards 80 to 89 are the start of the different chapters. Take card 80 for chapter 2, card 81 for chapter 3, and on and on. Place it on the story space on the board and read the setup instructions. If it says to add legacy tiles, place those in their numbered spaces on the board to match the map. The card may also indicate quest locations, and some story cards may be shuffled into the project card deck. With that, you're all set up to play. Maracaibo is played over 4 rounds. Each round signifies a decade of a player's seafaring career. Players will move their ships around the board in a clockwise direction, following the arrows to connected spaces. Turns go clockwise from starting player. Once someone reaches the 20th space, all players get 1 more turn before the round is over. The final 4th round gives players 2 final turns before the game ends. Reference the player aid pages as I cover what happens on a player's turn. 3 phases happen in order: A, B, and C. The first thing you do on your turn is move your ship forward to connected spaces going clockwise around the board. You may choose to move 1 to 7 spaces. From where your ship stops, you may take a main action and any free actions you want. You can also opt out of doing a main action if you want. Lastly, draw new cards up to your hand limit. When you're done, the next player begins their turn. The circular spaces found on the game board are cities and villages. The cities have scroll actions attached to them, while villages do not. The cities are also usually named locations like Puerto Plata and Maracaibo. At a city, you may do everything allowed as it's pictured on the scroll. The vertical line separates the different actions you can do. At villages, you may take specified village actions. How far you moved to get to the village space will determine how many village actions that you may carry out. By default, you may take 1 village action. If you spent between 4 and 6 movement points to arrive there, you may take 2 village actions. And if you spent 7 or more movement, you may do 3 village actions. Before, during, or after performing a main action, you can do as many free actions as you like. One of the free actions is to place a card from your hand to one of the 3 planning area spaces above your shipboard. Once they're full, you can no longer do this. The cards placed here do not count against your hand limit, so placing them there gets it out of your hand and lets you draw more cards at the end of your turn. The planned cards should always be placed face up. The second free action available is to complete one of your career goals shown on your career card. There are 3 goals achievable and will earn you extra meeples. Each goal has 2 completion requirements. The topmost one is the easier minimum goal. The bottom one is more difficult but typically also earns you victory points. You may choose when to complete a goal, either at its minimum requirement or waiting until you've accomplished the harder goal. When you complete a goal, place the meeple assigned to it next to your ship as an available meeple. Then gain the money shown and any victory points earned. Once you've completed all the goals on the card, earn the points and money on the bottom and flip the card over. The flag can now be placed above your ship to the left. Many times during your turn, you'll be playing and using cards from your hand. At the end of your turn, you may draw cards back to your minimum hand limit. Everyone starts out by default with a 4-card hand limit. When drawing cards, you may draw cards off the top of the deck for free, or you may choose any of the 4 face-up cards by paying 1 doubloon for each one taken. You're allowed to take cards from the deck and the face-up cards in any order. The 4 face-up cards do not refresh until your turn is over. If the deck runs out of cards, shuffle the discard pile to make a new one. The project cards can be spent for resources or built and added to your personal collection of played cards. Each card in the center left area shows 2 resources the card can be used for. The top one is a good and the bottom one is an object. There are 3 goods: tobacco, corn, and sugar. And there are 4 objects: maps, books, spyglasses, and herbs. The building cost of a card is shown in the upper left corner. The effects of a card are color-coded. The back of the player reference page reminds you what the colors represent. A red background area adds a permanent effect. The green background increases your income. At each round end, players gain money and points as shown by their cube's location on the money income track and on the victory point income track. The blue backgrounds indicate one of your assistants will be added to the game board at a specified numbered space. The actions shown in the box are actions you could take at the assistant's location. Anything on a card with a tan background is earned immediately as the card is built. It's important to remember that cards in your planning area are not built yet. They may not be used for anything. They're simply reserved out of your hand so it can be built later. At the end of the game, all your built project cards will score victory points as shown on each card. There are 5 synergy tokens each player can earn throughout the game. There are enough tokens included so everyone can earn all 5. Synergy tokens are a requirement for some cards' rewards. If you see the synergy token icon with an arrow under it, that indicates the reward it's pointing to is only given to you if you have the token. It doesn't matter if you earn the token before or after building the card. As soon as you have the synergy token, all your built cards in your area will activate. The Harbor card is an example of a card that earns you a synergy token. In this case, you would take the Anchor synergy token. However, the income boost rewards on the card are only earned if you have the Construction or Crown synergy tokens. Typically, the only way to gain the Crown synergy token is to invest in a prestige building card. Next, I'll cover the various main actions available in the game. The possible main actions are city actions, village actions, assistant actions, or fulfilling a quest. Your main action can be only one of these 4, so if you take your assistant's actions, you can't also fulfill a quest. Let's look at the city actions on the city scrolls first. As the main action, you perform all the actions available on the city tile. For example, in Santiago, there are 2 actions available. The first is to deliver tobacco. To do that, discard a card from your hand that shows the tobacco good icon. Then remove one of your brown upgrade discs from your ship's board and place it on the icon at that city. This delivery action can only be done once during your main action. If you remove the second disc from a stack, you unlock the ability below it. I'll go more into those later. The second action here is to gain one of your meeples from the general supply. The second action here is to gain one of your meeples from the general supply and do 1 village action. Since Santiago has 4 tobacco icons, each player could potentially deliver a disc here. Contrastly, at Maracaibo, only 2 sugar icons are visible, so only 2 players may place discs here. In this case, of course, you'll need to discard a card from your hand showing the sugar icon. The second action possible in Maracaibo is combat, but I'll cover that last. There are 2 city tiles always used in the game. This one lets one player deliver an upgrade disc by discarding a card with corn on it. The second action lets you gain 1 combat point on your combat tracker found at the top of your shipboard. Move the cube 1 space to the right. You can hold up to 8 combat points at a time. You may also now remove another upgrade disc from your board. This one won't be delivered. Instead, it's simply discarded. Place discarded discs in this top area above the game board. On this city tile, deliver discs by discarding a card with corn on it. The other action here is to move up to 2 spaces on the exploration track found at the bottom of the board. You must move forward at least 1 space. Your large meeple will get to move along this track, and you'll gain the rewards shown on the space that you stop at. Only one meeple can occupy a space at a time, so you would skip over any spaces occupied and only count spaces you can land on for your movement. Sometimes there will be a diversion in the path and you'll need to make a choice which way to go. The additional city tiles and their main actions are covered fully in the rulebook on page 8. However, the iconography in the game is consistent throughout, so it's very easy to look at the back of the player aid and review the legend describing all the normal symbols found in the game. The important thing to remember is that you can take all the actions on a tile separated by a vertical line. However, a slash between actions means you must choose one, not both. Additionally, if you see brackets pointing down, it indicates you pay what's above to gain what's below. Now let's look at village actions. By ending your ship's movement on a village space, you may take one or more village actions as your main action. Remember that the number of village actions available to you depends on your movement. By default, you have 3 village actions available. You can do the same one multiple times and in any order. For one, you can simply take 1 doubloon from the supply. Another village action option is to discard your entire hand and gain 2 doubloons. You can only do this one once, since you won't be drawing new cards until the end of your turn. To discard your hand, you must have at least 1 card to get rid of. The third village action, always available, is to buy a card. You may build a card from your hand, from your planning area, or invest in one of the prestige building cards at the top of the game board. Pay the cost shown at the top left of the card and add it to your play area near your shipboard. It's usually money paid to the supply. If a meeple figure is shown, you must pay an available meeple back to the general supply. The assistant cards will require you to place an available meeple on the game board at a specific numbered location. If you don't have an available meeple, you can't buy the card. Some project cards also show an occupancy cube with a number. This is a requirement check, meaning that many occupancy cubes for that nation must be out on the game board. If you decide to invest in a prestige building, do not move it in front of you. These are in-game scoring cards, so pay the cost shown and place one of your available meeples onto the prestige card. Gain any immediate reward shown with a tan background. All players have the ability to invest in each prestige building. However, there's usually an extra reward offered to the first player to claim it. There are more village actions that you may gain during the game, either from a built card or from unlocking upgrades on the shipboard. I'll cover all the ship's upgrades later. For the card-specific village actions added, full descriptions are described in the rulebook on page 19. Usually though, the bottom of the card describes the main effect. Another optional main action is to use one of your assistants where you land. If you have one there, you may choose to activate all the actions in the blue area of his card in your play area. If you have more than one there, you must choose which to use. Only one assistant may be activated as a main action. Do what's shown on the card. The bottom of the card usually describes its effect. If you skip over one of your assistants on the game board while moving, you'll gain 2 victory points immediately. Gain 2 points for each assistant skipped. This includes if you stop at its location but forego using his actions, or are forced to move to Havana at the end of a round. Any of your assistants you would pass to get to Havana would earn you 2 points each. Your shipboard shows a reminder about this. If your ship stops in a space with a quest tile, you may fulfill it as your main action. Sometimes more than one quest tile will be at a location. Still, you may only complete one of them. The quest's cost requirements are shown at the top of the tile. To fulfill it, discard cards from your hand that show the objects at the top of the brackets. Then take the quest tile and earn the reward shown underneath the brackets. If the cost requirement shows a meeple, you must return an available meeple to the general supply. If it shows a number of combat points, they must be paid by moving your combat trap marker to the left on your shipboard. After gaining the reward, flip over the quest tile and add it to your shipboard at the bottom. Completed tiles are added from left to right. If you place a tile on the 4th space, immediately earn 3 victory points. The 5th space can hold any number of tiles. Each time you place one there, you'll gain 2 points. For a detailed reference of all the quest's requirements and rewards, check the rulebook on page 23. Quests and some city tile actions reference a compass. Everyone's ship shows 1 compass automatically. Building cards that show a compass on a red background will add to your collected number of compasses. So the compass rewards earned are multiplied by the number of compasses that you have. If you're playing the campaign, some story quest tiles will be on the game board as well. If your ship is at the location of a numbered story tile, you may attempt to fulfill it. The story card in play will indicate the cost required and rewards earned. When doing interim scoring at the end of this round, flip over the story card and read everything. The story will progress, and new tiles and quests may be added to the game. There are 2 places always shown on the game board that allow you to do the combat action. They are found on the main city action of Maracaibo and Space 20. Doing combat will increase your influence with one of the 3 countries. First, take a combat tile from one of the face-down stacks on the board. You must choose one of the nations to fight alongside. Blue is France, red is Spain, and white is England. Each country will show costs or rewards for choosing it. In addition, the top of the tile may show a bonus or cost. When you see a 1 with a neutral cube next to it, it refers to the country that currently has the most ownership markers on locations on the board. When you see a 3 with a neutral cube next to it, it refers to the country with the least amount of ownership markers on the board. In both cases, if there's a tie, you do not apply the bonus or cost. After choosing which country you're fighting for, you can perform combat actions using the combat points the tile gives you. You can spend your collected combat points on your shipboard to increase your points available to spend. Also, you may now have the option to spend available workers for extra combat points if you want. There are 2 combat actions always available, with more possible through ship upgrades and project cards you've built. You can do multiple combat actions, but may only take each one once. If you don't have enough combat points to take the specific combat action, can't do it. The combat actions you do must involve the nation you chose from the tile. By default, you have 2 combat actions possible, as shown on the top left of your shipboard. The topmost combat action earns you influence in your chosen nation. If you pay 2 combat points, you gain 1 influence. If you spend 5 combat, you'll gain 2 influence. Simply move your influence marker on that country's influence track along the top of the board. You can only choose one of these 2 options, not both. The other action is called Annex or Displace. By spending 4 of your allotted combat points, you can earn 1 influence and place one of that nation's occupancy cubes on an empty flag location. Remove the leftmost cube from the nation's supply and place it on the board at any empty flag space. You immediately earn the reward shown on the flag. If there's a cube already on the space you want to go, then you must spend 6 combat points instead of 4 to displace it first. You may only displace a cube of a different color than the one you're placing. All displaced cubes are out of the game and can be placed in the collection area at the top left of the board, where the discarded upgrade discs are kept. Some cards may give you extra combat actions you can spend your combat points on. Upgrading your ship here also adds another combat action. Each combat action row can only be triggered once when doing combat. Doing combat will increase your influence marker along the 3 different nations' influence tracks during the game. If your marker is already at the end of the track, you would gain 2 victory points per increase instead. When moving cubes to add to the map, always remove the leftmost one. As cubes are removed from the supply, they reveal the victory points the nation gives at the end of the game. So at the end of the game, you'll score victory points for how far you move forward on each track. The red background columns are noble ranks. The furthest noble rank you reach gives you a multiplier to calculate your points at the end of the game. All the locations on your shipboard where you set up the stacked brown discs are the possible ship upgrades you can earn during the game. Both discs need to be removed from an upgrade in order to earn it. Discs are removed in a variety of ways throughout the game, as I've already discussed. Some of the upgrades are unavailable until you meet a requirement. For example, these victory point upgrades must be unlocked in order. The first one immediately scores you 3 points. The second one gives you 6 points. You're not allowed to remove discs from the rightmost area of your board until you've unlocked 4 or 6 total upgrades. The top area has 2 upgrades, but you must first have 4 other upgrades unlocked before removing any of them. The bottom area has 1 upgrade, only available once you've unlocked 6 other upgrades. By unlocking this permanent upgrade, you'll be able to perform more village actions with less movement required. If you move at least 2 spaces, you can take 2 village actions. And if you move at least 5 spaces, you can do 3 village actions. This upgrade increases your hand limit from 4 to 6 cards for the rest of the game. This upgrade immediately earns you 3 victory points. From now on, when drawing up cards, you may take face-up cards from the display without paying the normal fees. This upgrade is an immediate effect and simply earns you 5 doubloons. These 2 upgrades are new village actions you could do at a village space. The first one must be unlocked before you can remove discs for the second one. The first lets you gain 1 combat point on your combat track and gain 1 doubloon. The second new village action is to discard 3 identical goods from your hand. This only refers to the 3 goods shown on cards, not objects, such as tobacco, corn, and sugar. By discarding them, you'll gain 2 immediate victory points and 2 doubloons. Up here is an upgrade that gives you a new combat action to choose from. To use it, spend 2 combat points and gain 1 influence on the chosen nation. Then remove a cube from that nation's supply and add it to a village space, not a city. For each assistant you control at that village, you gain 3 doubloons. You'll gain 1 doubloon for each opponent's assistant there as well. After gaining 4 upgrades, you can start unlocking these 2. This one gives you a new possible village action. You may only do this at village locations without an ownership marker cube there. Take an ownership marker cube from a nation of your choice and put it at the village space where your ship is currently located. Gain 1 influence on that nation's track and gain 1 doubloon. The upgrade underneath it is an immediate one-time use bonus. Once unlocked, choose one of the 3 benefits shown. You could advance your explorer up to 3 spaces on the exploration track, taking the reward there on the final space you land on, or you can gain 4 victory points and 4 doubloons, or advance one of your influence markers up to the next noble rank. The final upgrade is the one at the bottom right of your board. It first requires you to have unlocked 6 upgrades before you can remove its discs. When you remove the last disc here, immediately score 10 victory points. Interim scoring happens after rounds 1, 2, and 3. Final scoring happens after the final 4th round. Once a player ends their ship's movement on space 20 during rounds 1, 2, or 3, everyone has one last turn before interim scoring. The player who ended at 20 also gets another turn, but will only get to move to space 21A. This player immediately scores 3 victory points and may do free actions only. After they're done, proceed along the bottom track of interim scoring icons. Use their ship to track the steps as you proceed through scoring each thing. Starting with the player who triggered the scoring, everyone may either build one of their project cards or gain 2 victory points. When it's your turn and you decide to build a project card, you may build one from your hand or planning area like normal, or invest in a prestige building instead. Draw back up to your hand limit after building your card like in Phase C of a player's turn. After each player's turn, you can refill the display back up to 4 like you normally do. Next, everyone scores income based on both the victory point and doubloon income tracks. Gain doubloons equal to where your marker is located on the track. Gain points the same way, but based on the victory point income track on the right. Now, any brown discs on the game board that were placed or delivered are removed from the game. They can sit in a collection area at the top left of the board. Then discard all the face-up cards in the project display and draw 4 new cards to completely replenish the available cards. After that, reveal the next prestige building card above the game board. They are revealed from left to right. The next space reminds you to now check the current story cards requirements. Different things happen now depending on if you're playing a campaign game or a standalone game. If you're playing the campaign, you may have multiple story cards. Check all of them to see if any requirements were filled this round. The player who completed the requirements reads the back of the story card aloud. If multiple cards were fulfilled, deal with them in increasing numerical order. Sometimes a decision needs to be made and players should vote. Majority wins and the reader would break ties. After reading the card, tuck it under your shipboard to increase your ship's mast. There's no gameplay effect of that. Follow all the instructions on the card, including adding a new story card if asked. If not playing the campaign game, you'll evaluate the standalone story card you use to set up the game. Those are numbered 75, 76, and 77. Depending on what round it is and how many players, the card will tell you to add new quests to the game board at certain locations. Once the story card is resolved, move on to the final part of interim scoring, which is to return everyone's ships to Havana. You're ready to start the next round. The next player in clockwise direction of the player who triggered the end of the round will start. Once a player ends their ship's movement on space 20 on the 4th round, everyone gets 2 final turns before doing final scoring. The player who ended at 20 must move 1 space per turn up the top track, first moving to space 21B and scoring 3 victory points, and then moving to 22 and gaining 5 victory points. The only other thing they may do at these spaces are free actions. It is possible for other players to reach 20 on their next turn, and their final turn would let them proceed to 21B, scoring 3 points. After gaining points at space 22, proceed along the top track final scoring icons. Use their ship to track the steps as you proceed through scoring each thing. The first step is the same as during interim scoring. Starting with the player who triggered final scoring, each player has the choice to either gain 2 points or build a project card or invest in a prestige building. There's no longer a need to draw cards back up to your hand limit. Next, everyone again scores the 2 income tracks. The difference now, though, is don't collect doubloons. Instead, gain victory points based on the furthest victory point number shown that your marker has reached. Now everyone will gain victory points based on all the project cards they've built in their display, plus the prestige building investments they've put meeples on. The victory points are shown in the center of each card. The cards in your planning area and hand don't score anything. Next, check the influence tracks. For each nation, whichever player has gained the most influence in them will get 3 victory points. All tied players will earn the 3 points. Now everyone scores points for the noble rank they've achieved in each nation. Multiply your rank multiplier by the victory points shown to the left of the nation. Only completely empty spaces add victory points to the total. To the victory points shown, also add in majority bonuses earned. The nation who has the most cubes on the board gets a 2 victory point bonus added. The second most nation gains 1 victory point bonus. If 2 nations tie for the most, all tied nations get the 2-point bonus, and the third nation gets nothing extra. If all 3 tie for the most, they all gain the 2-point bonus. The total victory points for the nation is multiplied by your noble rank reached. Score that many points on the VP track. Lastly, check the story cards for meeting the requirements. If you should add a new story card, add it to the game board, but don't follow its instructions. It will be added to the blue bag archive for the campaign. The game ends after everyone's done with scoring. Whoever has the most points wins. Tied players will share the win. To prepare the end of the game for your next campaign game, take all the legacy tiles and story cards on the game board and put them in the blue bag archive. Leave the red numbered project cards that entered the game via story cards in the deck. They will still be present in the next game. The game also has a solo mode, which you can find detailed in the rulebook on pages 16 to 18. It uses an automa deck that determines the AI's turn. The AI here is called Gene. Solo games are played like a standalone 2-player game. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. I put together the FAQ forum and added a printable FAQ file on the game's page at BGG, which you should definitely check out. Check the video description for links to Top Shelf Gamer for token upgrades and SleeveKings.com for a 10% off coupon on card sleeves. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.